Well, hello and welcome back. My name's Kieron Seamons and this is my inky channel where today we are talking about practice. Practice makes perfect after all. Isn't that what they say? Well, it does if you practice properly. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about practice. Okay, so we are going to talk about practice. Now, practice, yes, practice makes perfect, but not if you just redoing. And in a lot of cases, what they will do is they will teach you this. They will teach you to draw a head, whatever kind of head you've got, and then you will end up drawing something that you're very, very unhappy with. There's some little guy that you're unhappy with, and then the way that they teach you to practice is to redraw it. And with the natural way that we work, we redraw everything. So, okay, I didn't like the nose on that one, but I love the nose on that one. But I don't like the eyes on this one. Do you see the process? Do you see the kind of misguiding way of working? Okay, well, I'll draw it again. Here we are, where we are. I'm really happy with that now, and I've followed that nose, right? I'm really happy with that now. And then, oh no, he looks like he's staring. He looks like he's worried. And you go through that process many, many, many times. So the process of this kind of, well, you know, in a lot of cases I've found on the internet is like, well, if you can't do that and you can't do that and you can't do that, well, why don't you come on over and buy my course on how to practice? Why don't you come on over and buy my course of this and that? Then I can teach you how to practice over 27 weeks. And every single week you will pay me something. Doesn't that sound great? Well, it does for the person, like if I was selling you a course, but not for the person who's actually doing the course. I find that most cases that people get frustrated and give up on that course. They will never get to the 27th week and think, my God, I can practice like a genius. So I'm going to give you a couple of ideas on practicing. Let's just take an old drawing. Horse. All right, let's try the horse. Right, so what I'm going to try and do is work on a couple of different ways for you to practice. Now, the obvious way to work on practicing is to kind of fine-tune things. Not to redraw, but to fine-tune, okay? And you have to remember that in this case, you are becoming the observer. You're not becoming an artist at this point. You're becoming the observer, the critic, okay? So you will take that nose and you will begin to practice your noses. This is one way of doing it. And you don't need a 7-week course to do so. You just need a method, okay? I'm going to give you two methods. One is the fine-tuning of an area that you constantly mess up on. And the second will be a kind of patchwork method, which I learned from a friend of mine. I learned from a guy called Paul, or Paulie, as we used to call him. Paul used to do this type of way of fine-tuning drawings, and I watched him, and I was amazed at how his mind kind of perfected a drawing, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other way on this is to do like the nose. I keep getting the nose wrong. So I will draw different types of noses. I will draw a nose that makes me happy. I will draw a nose maybe that... And you just sit and you just draw noses or eyes or lips or whatever you keep getting wrong. And you draw it to a point. where you might start to run out of ideas, and you start thinking, well, maybe a bit of that and a bit of that. Oh, that's quite nice. I quite like that. Or you might think, oh, I want it to be a little bit more of a kind of a regular shaped nose, you know, a little bit more kind of, nah, it doesn't work, does it? It doesn't really fit that. No, right. And that's a beautiful way to, because you can just sit there and just do a couple of pages in your kind of sketchbook, your book of learning. And your sketchbook is not a showpiece. Your sketchbook is not all these amazing finished pieces that you see people online showing you. I haven't got a sketchbook around, have I? A sketchbook is basically working. It's like your exercise. It's like your throwing out of thoughts. It's your developing your thoughts. It is not these big elaborate pieces of artwork. You know, like every single page you turn, you go, oh, wow, you're amazing. Oh, wow, you're amazing. It's not that. Practice is fine-tuning your skills in the same way that a runner does not run a marathon every single day. He will get into his practice and he will run 1 mile. He'll run 2 miles. He'll run 5 miles. And he will build that practice up. And that is what you're doing here. So you can start to get into a thing of maybe you could do some funny noses. You know, you could do a nose that's kind of off to one side. I kind of like that. You know, maybe you could do something that's really big. And that's a lovely way to make practice fun. And I always find if you're having fun, you're moving forward. If you're always having fun, then you're creating something beautiful in the environment of drawing and producing art. And, you know, maybe we'll just do big black holes in his nostrils. Maybe we'll do one bigger than the other just to make it, maybe that one's got a little wrinkle above it, just to kind of give it that bulbous type of a feeling. And that's a beautiful, beautiful way to kind of relax and ease into your things. And it's the same with eyes, you know. You could draw eyes for hours, and you could draw eyes that are like a little bit sneaky looking. You could draw eyes that are like a little bit tired looking, you know. And the whole thing that you're having fun with it and drawing, maybe you would draw little beady eyes like that. And you could have fun with it. And that gets you into a practice of fun. And if you are enjoying it, you might do it, you know, today I don't know what to draw. I'll draw feet. Okay, what does a foot look like? What do you think a foot looks like is also another beautiful thing. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a method here. And I learned this from my friend Paul. I'll take, it doesn't matter what drawing I grab. And what it does is it makes your mind kind of fine-tune your drawing or give you alternative thinkings. And that, in a way, it kind of might sound like it's giving you something better about your drawing. But in some cases, it makes you look at your drawing and think, I was right the first time. I was very right about the way that I drew his eyes or his teeth or his whatever. And it is a lovely way. I'll do it probably with a couple of different drawings. Maybe it will help. What else have I got? I've got a cat. Oh, okay, the cat maybe. All right, I'll do a couple of examples of this. And what I do, well, I'll explain that I watched this guy called Paul, and he used to do this method, and I used to call it Paulie's patchwork. Sorry, Paulie. Paulie's patchwork. So today we are learning about somebody else's skill, somebody else's method that I learned from. Okay? Now, there's a big difference here about learning from other people and stealing from other people. Don't go around just stealing people's drawings and stealing people's artwork. I've seen far too much of it online, and it's quite disgusting, to be honest. So today we are going to be learning Paulie's patchwork. And what it does for me is that it does this process of almost, I'm not sure. It's like a doubt kind of thing that you're kind of finding it's a little bit, yeah, I'm not sure. And it should never be hard work. Let's get that very, very straight. Art should not be hard work. If it's hard work, stop. Stop. Okay? If it's hard work, you're coming from the wrong angle, okay? It's got to be enjoyable. If you're drawing feet, yeah, maybe you draw a couple of feet that look like Rembrandt drew them or something like that. But then also draw a couple of funny feet. And by doing different styles and different methods will teach you about what you think looks right. And that's one of the important things. Not about what is right, but what looks right, okay? So I'm going to cover up the eyes. So we have no idea what the eyes look like because I wasn't sure about those eyes. You know, I wasn't quite sure about them. So I'll get my ink and I'll just kind of just get that there. But what kind of eyes maybe I could have done? Maybe I could have done some kind of like kind of angry, fierce looking eyes. And I kind of get into this thing here, maybe doing some crazy eyes, you know? And Paulie used to do this all the time. Paulie used to do this. And he used to do it in a way that he would kind of fine-tune his thought process. And it was a really lovely thing to watch because you could see almost that he had some doubt on the process that he had done. And there you go. Then you've got, you know, draw the other ear there. Maybe we'll have some hair coming over that way. And it doesn't have to be the finished drawing, okay? Like I'm just scribbling in the hair. But would that work? Would that work by him being a little bit angry, you know? And it changes the whole drawing, you know? The mouth comes up. Let's not just do that. And then it gives you this vision of what the drawing could have been. Now, I don't like him angry. And you can do this wonderful little trick, which I also saw Paulie do. And I learned a lot from watching Paulie draw. And he was a much better artist than me at the time. He was just way above a lot of people. But he was very, very shy. Now you can flick through it. You can see the happy eyes, angry eyes. Happy eyes, angry eyes. And that's okay, I'm not happy with that. Get another piece of paper. Just a little scrap piece of paper, whatever you've got sitting around. Just grab a couple of them. And you can start to think about your drawing. Right, I didn't like the angry eyes. Well, let's try a different type of eyes. Let's try a very big eye. Let's have him with kind of like droopy eyelids. And you can see by just changing the expression on a drawing, it changes the whole feeling, you know? You can make him kind of look nervous and worried just by the expression on him. And again, you could have a little tuft of hair there. And his ears coming in. And you've got that. And you go, oh, it looks quite nice. I quite like that. And you can do your kind of flicking through the two different eyes. Can you see that? And you're thinking, well, yeah, I can see that their eyes are quite small. And I do like the bigger eyes. This is where this patchwork method works beautiful. Now I'm on. I don't like the angry eyes, but I like that bigger eye. I like the fact that the eyes are big and bulbous on this drawing. Right. So let's try some big lumpy, googly eyes. Let's just put them up there for reference. And you'll put down another patchwork, okay? And you'll go, okay, I'm going to move the eyes slightly forward on this. And I like my big googly eyes, so I'm going to do the big bulbous eyes. And I liked also the fact that he was looking that direction, kind of like he was nervous. And I'm going to make that eye slightly smaller than I did on the previous. Now, what you're starting to do here is that you're starting to learn from each patchwork that you do. You're starting to learn that I enjoyed that. I loved the fact that his eyes are big and bulbous, and I like that feeling. And I'll do the hair there, and I'll bring the ears up. And this is such a very, very, very fun way. And I really do think it's such a fun way that I don't know why more people don't kind of learn this way. Because it's a great way to, especially if you're sketching and you're patchworking. Now, let's be really sneaky here, and we'll put another patchwork underneath, and we'll change maybe the mouth. Maybe that mouth didn't really work, and I will give him a little bit more of a kind of a panicked expression, a little bit more nervous. And again, this is a patchwork way of fine-tuning and correcting and giving yourself alternatives. So if you don't like the idea of doing that kind of drawing 100 noses, drawing 100 toes, drawing 100, you could take a drawing that you are very happy with and quite pleased with, and critique it in your own method, your own style of doing things. I didn't do that, did I? I keep forgetting to do this speed one, and a lot of people keep asking me about the speed one. There we are. And this patchwork way will basically give you a much more creative approach to your drawings. And, you know, you might, if you were to ask other art friends, they might critique it in a similar way. They might say, I love that horse, but I don't like his mouth. I like that horse, but I don't like his eyes, you know. And this is a way for you to kind of critique it in a friendly way for yourself, giving him a little chin instead of that big long chin. Maybe he's got a little kind of beard. And what you can kind of do is you can kind of bring in your horse. And already you're starting to see the difference in the eyes. And you're beginning to see the difference with the mouth. Do you see how that's worked? Do you see how that has now created a very different drawing? It's now given me this approach. Does it come through on that? Yeah, I think so. It gives you this approach to working with alternatives to your drawing. And the way that Paulie used to do it is he used to do this type of approach, and then he would put a new piece of paper down, and then with all the patchworks in place, and then redraw the whole thing, which is an incredibly, it's quite a slow process, but it's a very accurate process. So that is one way of working on that. I'll pull a different character. I'll pull over the cat maybe. And this again is a cat. And the client has come back and said, I don't want him to be angry. I want him to be something else. Okay. Okay, well, he's got a glass of lemonade in his hand. Let's make him a little bit kind of worse for wear. Okay, well, let's not do the whole thing. Let's just do his eyes, okay? Let's just work on the eyes at this point. So we have our cat. The ears are coming in, and the hair was okay, but you know, let's have a little bit of fun and just kind of give him a little bit more of a center part, and you know, because I think the tie kind of gave me the feeling that he was like an office cat. If there's such a thing as an office cat, he's an office cat. He's at the office party. He's got his trousers on. He's got his tie on. And maybe the angry part didn't work. Maybe the client is unhappy that he's at a party and he's angry. So let's go again. Let's kind of make him a little bit kind of drunk, maybe, you know. Or worse for wear, shall we say, instead. And there again, you've kind of got this lovely kind of play on expressions here. You know, you've started to get a cat who, let's just fill those out just so you can get a little bit of a better idea. And there what you've got is you've got a very, very different looking cat. He is really looking like, oh, I've had far too many lemonades or something like that. And it's a fun approach. It's a fun way of reworking a drawing that maybe a client is not happy with. And you can see already, yeah, maybe that does work. Well, okay. Let's try something different. Let's try it. I don't like those little loop things at the end. And tearing a piece of hair doesn't matter. Paulie used to do it all the time. Let's draw something different. Let's make him look a little bit more office-like. Maybe we'll give him a pair of glasses. Maybe he's kind of like the office clever guy, you know? We'll give him a little bit of, and we could have his eyes peeking over the top. Maybe he's got really tiny little eyes like we did there on that. Maybe he's not very good at seeing anything, you know? Maybe he's got little squinty eyes, you know? And what we're doing here is we're completely changing the mood of that drawing. We're completely changing. Maybe, again, we could kind of give him a different hairstyle. Again, just playing, having fun with it. You know, the fact that we are exploring our mind and our alternatives to this drawing. And this is a beautiful way to kind of, if you are working with a client, you could do, okay, I've done this new version of the cat. I've done him a little bit more with glasses, and it's an office approach, and you could send it over, you know. And what you will inevitably get is some kind of director of sorts kind of coming back and saying, yes, much better, but I don't like the shaved part of his head. Can you not have that, or can you make the glasses more round or something, you know? But you're working in a process. And in the same way that this is a practice, this is also a very fun practice that you can do for yourself in your own drawings. And you might have a drawing where you've drawn the hand. You know, I mean, let's try that with the hand, okay? You didn't like that hand. It's a little bit kind of, well, you know, either hand, doesn't matter. And you're thinking, I wish I had done the fingers a little bit more like that or something, or like he was. Let's just do the hand. And the client might say, well, I don't want a glass of wine in his hand, but could you draw him delicately holding a banana? Delicately, okay, like that, you mean? Okay. So let's delicately hold a banana for our client. And we will draw our banana, something like that. We'll draw some, and we will delicately hold it with his thumb being here and his hand, his first finger being there, his pointing finger, as you would call it. And then you might just spray out the other fingers just to kind of make it look a little bit more of a delicate pose. Okay, draw the end of the banana. And you have a very different approach again. He's not holding a glass of wine, he's holding a delicate banana, you know. And this is something that you can really play with your art. And already you can see that I've got two versions of my party cat. Two versions, the same way that I did with that. And you can go through that with any of the drawings that I've done in the, you know, in the past week. You could probably take the cat away and you could do the same type of process with the fish. Okay, he was very worried in that. You could take the eyes and you could make him look like he's a hunting fish, you know. And again, this is a beautiful process of learning, because it's not only learning about drawing in different styles and redrawing different expressions and stuff like that. It's also about this. It's about practice for this, about retraining this, about being open to other options. And now, if you are going to work in some kind of production company, whether you're going to be an illustrator or an animator or whatever, you are going to inevitably have corrections come through. The director will say, I don't like the expression on it. I don't like his feet or his hands or the pose or whatever. And you're going to have a lot of redrawing. And part of this patchwork approach, I felt, was that we've all had it. I mean, we've all had it when a director comes back to you and says, I don't like that fish's expression. He's too worried. He's too unhappy. He's too sad looking. Change it to an angry one, a devious one, a kind of meddling one who's looking for dinner. Right. And you, as an artist, you take it as like, you know, like that scene in a movie where you've got that soldier standing there and then about 5,000 arrows come into him. And you know, the poor soldier standing there with like 5,000 arrows on him and he just falls over dead. That's exactly like what is working with a director. And especially if you kind of get some of the nastier ones. And it can be quite hurtful. It can be quite kind of soul destroying. Yeah, okay, I said it. Soul destroying. It can be soul destroying that all of a sudden, all that work that you've put into it, all that effort, all that energy you put into it, this guy doesn't like. And he doesn't like because he's the director. And he doesn't like it. You know, maybe he even wants you to put a little hat on him. Well, let's get in there and draw a little hat just to make him happy. Okay, you don't think an angry fish that's out hunting would have a nice hat, but the director is right. So you go ahead and you draw a nice little, in fact, you even put a little kind of feather in there for it. Look at that. Just to make that director super happy. Now, what you have is a very, very different character already. You know, you can get some little nostrils in there just to add to that kind of nastiness, that kind of menacing, evil fish. Now, our cat, our fish has become that or that. That or that. That or that. Now, what we are doing here is we are also training our mind to look at it as an observer, as a critic, as a outside eye. And we are looking at it and saying, well, you know, maybe that director was right. Maybe he shouldn't have been scared. Maybe he should have been a little bit more devious. Maybe he should have been. And you could do that all day long, you know. And it's a real fun way. You can go and buy I bought this in Poundland, this little pad. And you can just, they're tiny little pieces of paper. Can't remember what the format size is, but it's a tiny little piece of paper. And they're so, like, I think it was £1 or £1.50 or something like that. You can just tear them up and you can stick them down. And you can just say, well, okay, I'll just redraw the eyes and keep the head. Maybe I won't give him those teeth, and you can kind of go, all right, well, let's kind of make him a little bit more sneaky. Maybe angry was a bit too much. Maybe the director comes back to you and says, yes, better that he's angry. I do like that, but I don't like the big eyes. Can you make little eyes? Arrows, 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 arrows. You fall dead and you go, yes, sir, I will go away and happily draw a much more kind of devious and sneaky fish. And you think, well, while I'm there, I could change that goofy side and I could draw his mouth being a little bit more menacing. There we are. Here's where your mind's starting to work. Your mind is starting to get active. Your mind is starting to enjoy the redrawing. And I used to really quite enjoy my redraws. And I used to get a lot. I worked in animation for about 30 years, and you know, I would go over to the director and I'd be chuffed to punch with what I'd done, and then the director would say, no, I don't like his eyes, redraw that doesn't work, this doesn't work. And you know, at the beginning it is painful, but over time I'd say, oh, what, you only want another 50 drawings, I'll do that. And you get on with it and you start to enjoy this. And now I'm starting to redraw this fish, the fish that I loved 3 days before, and I'm starting to get to a point where I'm actually thinking maybe that goon of a director that I didn't like a minute ago, maybe he's actually got some thoughts there. Maybe I could have some really little sneaky little nose on the fish. Does a fish have a nose? Well, he probably does. But doesn't that look like a mean fish? Doesn't that look like he is out hunting? And this is a beautiful, beautiful method for your working. And again, you can go to that, and you can go to that, and you can go to that, and you can go to that. And it's a fantastic way of practice. And I used Paulie's patchwork way of working for many a projects, especially with character design and stuff like that. You would constantly get into these meetings with people doing character design. You've worked night and day for a bunch of characters, and then they say, well, I don't like his shoes. And you go, oh, okay. Well, his ears could have been bigger, and you feel like a lot of times these directors have to say something. They have to point a finger, they have to point that finger somewhere. They're thinking, what can I point it at? Oh, there, that thing there, right there, that thing, that's the problem. And it makes them feel like they're a little bit more like a director. If you're the director and you walk in, you go, yeah, it's brilliant, mate. It's amazing. Thanks very much. Bye. It very rarely happens. So be prepared. And you can do this all day long. Maybe that he doesn't like that hand. Okay, well, let's redraw the hand. Maybe he's a little bit more devious. Can we draw a little bit more of a nasty hand instead? Maybe it's got some claws in there. Still keep it like a fish's fin, but maybe redrawing it with claws. Okay, I can do that for you, sir. I can do that for you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, madam. Whoever the director is. And there's a lot of lady directors these days. So we shouldn't just say sir. One of the best directors I ever worked with was in China, and she was a lady director, and she was absolutely fantastic. To the absolute horror of her husband, who was also a director and quite useless. Don't say that, Kieron. That's horrible. Okay, he wasn't as good. There you go. There you go. It was nice. There you go. Now, what we have done here is we have created a powerful and a more aggressive character for our director. And this approach here is very, very, very powerful. Now, in the modern times, you could probably put a little bit of tape on it and scan it and blah, blah, blah. But I still feel like to really get the fine tuning of it, I could put a little bit more claws on that side. I could change those two goofy teeth to a sharp teeth. So putting a piece of paper down and redrawing the whole thing would be a pleasure. Doesn't that feel like a beautiful way to practice? Doesn't that feel like a real kind of energetic way to work on your practicing? And it hasn't cost you a whole course. It hasn't cost you 27 months or something, some ridiculous thing with these courses. Everybody's got a course. And while I would love to have a course of some sort, I'm quite put off by so many courses, by so many people that have probably never worked in the industry and are begging, stealing your money. And I don't like that. If you're very experienced and you're very, very good and you've worked in productions of sorts, then it's probably a very good course to have and to learn from. Not all of them are a waste of space, but I do think that kind of by building your knowledge of being able to change expressions, to be able to change the pose of a hand. I don't like that pose. I want that pose. I want to have that pose. I want to have that pose. And by able to just, in your sketchbook, practicing, not redrawing Rembrandt's classics. It's about using your sketchbook in a way to kind of give yourself knowledge, give yourself experience, give yourself that kind of talent to be able to change things at a whim, to please directors. So there you are. There is a very, very, very beautiful way of using your patchwork, as we've done there with that, and we did it with the cat, didn't we? We did it with the hand on the banana, and we had his eyes. We changed that also, didn't we? Let's get that in place. And there you have a very, very lovely patchwork way of working. Patchwork Paulie, as I used to call it. And I'll probably call this video Patchwork Paulie. And it is an amazing way to practice. And a great way for you to enjoy practicing. You can sit there and just take any old drawing that you've got and put a piece of paper on and redraw the eyes, redraw the ears, redraw the hairstyle, redraw whatever. And it's a fun way to do so. So I hope this has been a video to help you to enjoy the drawing, to love what you do, and to enjoy doing those corrections and those fixes, and to also look at your own work in an observer critic way of doing. I think it's a very healthy thing to do. It's a very healthy thing to look at your own work and say, could I have done that better? Could that character have been this or that? So I would love to know your thoughts about it. And if you did enjoy this video, do hit that subscribe button and come back for some more gorgeous videos where they are all free. They are just free chat and free friendship between you and me. It is friends. It is not a paid course of any sort, but I hope these videos help you. I hope these videos are knowledge for you, and I hope they will get you to a better level of love for your work. And I find if you love your work, if you love drawing, if you love doing versions of your work, you will do it longer, you will do it better. So go and correct one of your drawings. Go and critique one of your drawings. So thank you very much for being here. Please subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate it. And if you've got comments, if you want to say something about Paulie's patchwork or Kieron's crazy hat, write to me and tell me about what you feel about today's video. I would love to hear from you. From whatever country you are from, we get people from all over the world coming to this channel, and that's what is magic about it. And I love that. So please come back and subscribe. See you soon. Keep drawing. Bye-bye.